The Panzer 87 is Switzerland's version of the Leopard 2 tank. It has been a key part of the Swiss military for many years. The story of this tank shows how Switzerland combines working with other countries and improving things to fit its own needs. From the time it was first bought to the upgrades it has received, the Panzer 87 has stayed useful for the Swiss army. In the late 1970s, Switzerland needed to replace its old tanks, the Panzer 68-88, because these tanks were becoming outdated and could no longer meet modern military needs. The Panzer 68-88 tanks were based on older designs that lacked the advanced technology, firepower and protection necessary to handle new threats or compete with the capabilities of modern tanks used by other nations. By the late 1970s, it was clear that Switzerland required a more modern and reliable tank to maintain its defensive strength and adapt to evolving warfare tactics. This led to the decision to find a replacement. At first, they considered designing a new tank from scratch, but it was too expensive and risky. Developing a tank domestically would have required a massive investment of money, resources, and time, and there was no guarantee it would meet the requirement performance standards. On top of that, Switzerland industry lacked the experience and scale needed for such a complex project, making the risk of failure too high. So they tested tanks from other countries like the American M1 Abrams, British Challenger, Israeli Merkava, and German Leopard 2. After a lot of testing, the Leopard 2 was chosen in 1981 because it was the best combination of cutting-edge technology like its advanced fire control systems, powerful 120mm smoothbore cannon, and exceptional armor, with a price that was lower than designing a new tank from scratch or importing more expensive alternatives. By 1984, Switzerland decided to buy 380 Leopard 2 tanks, calling them the Panzer 87 Leopard, with Panzer meaning tank in German and 87 referring to the year the first units entered service. The addition of Leopard reflects its origins as a variant of the German Leopard 2. Of these, 35 tanks were made in Germany by Krauss-Maffei, and the other 345 were built in Switzerland under a license. Production started in 1987 and finished in 1993. During this time, Swiss companies such as Oerlikon Contravis and KW in Thun made several modifications to better suit the tanks for Swiss needs, which we're going to talk about in a second. The Panzer 87 is based on the Leopard 2A4 with some changes. It uses Swiss-made 7.5mm MG87 machine guns. One is placed next to the main cannon and another is on top for the commander to use. Swiss radios were added to improve communication and special snow cleats were included to make the tank easier to drive in snow and mountains. A quieter exhaust system was also added to reduce noise when moving through forests or urban areas. That makes quite a lot of sense considering how often we've seen tanks and IFVs drive through some villages or cities. The tank's armor was upgraded to protect better against threats like anti-tank rounds, high-explosive shells, and other projectiles. Early versions had layered steel armor, while later versions used ceramic composite armor. Its main weapon is a 120mm cannon that can fire armor-piercing and explosive shells. It can carry 42 shells in total. The tank's engine is a 1,500 horsepower diesel engine, letting it reach speeds of 68 km an hour on roads. It can travel about 340 km before needing more fuel. Thanks to its suspension and transmission, it handles rough terrain well, which is important in Switzerland's hilly and snowy areas. The Panzer 87 started being used by the Swiss Army in 1988. Switzerland's military strategy focuses on defense rather than attacking, largely due to its long-standing policy of neutrality and its mountainous geography, which naturally favors defensive tactics over offensive maneuvers. So the tanks were stationed in areas where they could take advantage of the mountains. Their tactics involved using the natural terrain to create defensive strongholds. These positions used natural barriers like mountains and valleys to slow down enemy advances, limit their ability to maneuver, and force them into predictable paths where Swiss forces could effectively ambush them, block key routes, and provide fire support to infantry units operating in these landscapes. Switzerland's many bunkers and fortified positions are a perfect match for the tank's defensive role. The tanks can move quickly, hit hard, and reposition to new areas, making them ideal for Switzerland's mountainous terrain. Tank crews trained extensively at schools like the one in Tran, learning how to operate, repair, and fight with the tanks. Modern simulators were also used to reduce costs and help soldiers practice more effectively. To keep the Panzer 87 useful, Switzerland started upgrading some of the tanks in 2006. This project was called the Value Retention Program. Between 2009 and 2011, 134 tanks were upgraded to the Panzer 87 Leopard WE standard. These upgrades included new thermal imaging cameras and better range-finding tools to make it easier to spot and hit targets, modern systems to allow better communication and coordination with other units, electric systems instead of older hydraulic ones for smoother and more reliable turret movement, and a camera at the back of the tank to help drivers see better when reversing. The ongoing war in Ukraine has made modern tanks like the Panzer 87 more desirable worldwide. Some countries have shown interest in buying Switzerland's older tanks, especially Ukraine. However, Swiss laws about neutrality state that they can't sell weapons directly to active war zones. This doesn't just apply to tanks, but to every other piece of Swiss military hardware. Anyways, that was all I had to say for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you think I said anything that is not right, or you think I should have added any additional information to this video, please let me know in the comments and share your knowledge. Besides that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.